Hello and thanks for checking out ChartGuys.com. We're proud to be one of the most successful technical analysis communities online, teaching you the skills to become a more confident, effective, and informed trader. Join our community of hundreds of analysts worldwide working together to learn the charts, generate profit, and achieve financial independence. For access to daily live chart analysis and market coverage, a thriving chat community, along with dozens of hours of exclusive educational materials. We look forward to seeing you. Let's check out some charts. Everyone checking in on the cryptocurrency space, we're going to do most of our usual names, but we're going to look at ADA, Matic, EOS, IOTA, and then we're going to look at some BTC pairings, ENJ, ENG, and XRP. And this is from votes from members, and they are ordered in votes from most to least, if that gives any information, but I did organize it a bit to put the Bitcoin pairings at the end. So, talked a little bit about my overall perspective and the psychology of this current setup for me personally yesterday. And at this point, that has protected me, that anti-FOMO of the bigger picture. So the bigger picture of knowing that Bitcoin on the daily time frame was just going to form a daily lower high kept me from making any bullish entries. Whereas if I was looking at the 4-hour or the hourly for the majority of my analysis, I would be more inclined to be making a bullish entry. So again, the scaffolding of the bigger picture of what the setup is, whether it's the weekly or the daily time frame, and then basing all of our other observations off of that is a great way to keep yourself in check. So we now have our daily lower high on Bitcoin being set. Anything under 88.34 was just a lower high, and now we've topped out at 81.34, and we're heading back down towards our low. So for any individual name that we're comparing to Bitcoin as far as US dollar pairings, we're going to be looking at, have they held the low or have they broken the low? Names that have broken the low will clearly be weaker. Names that have more space to work with, like Litecoin, will be more bullish, more space to form a daily higher low and maintain that support. So that's what we're going to be watching first thing as Bitcoin heads back down towards 74.27 support. Hourly oversold at this point. The 4-hour RSI is getting back towards oversold again, but I have no interest. The only really plays for the bulls right now are bullish entries looking for this level to hold, or just patiently waiting for the potential of another daily lower low. Bears made their entry on the loss of 4-hour uptrend because the loss of that 4-hour uptrend was an indication that our daily lower high had been set. And if you were just looking back at this action, we had the top of the bull move. We pulled back and held 78.73. We then traded sideways, broke that support. And if that wasn't enough, certainly the most recent leg down on increased bear volume would have been a bear signal as well. So it's all about the next 2 days. Can the bulls hold the low, or are we dropping to lower lows? If we drop to lower lows, the next target I'm looking at is down at that gap fill on the futures. And off the top of my head, I forget it. It's either 71.85, 71.75, something along those lines. That's the next target of where I would be watching. Ethereum on the daily time frame, that low of 233 has already broken. So again, Ethereum clearly more bearish than Bitcoin, already dropping to that lower low. Our new daily lower high is 254.40. Anything under that level is just a lower high on a bounce attempt. Next support we're looking down at is 222.88, which has not broken yet. And if that level breaks, there is a lack of support nearby. So that would be notable. 222.88 is the most important short-term support for Ethereum. With this bear break, ETH BTC has also made a bear break. I would have expected this equilibrium to play out longer and for the bulls to at least initially hold this 0.03 support test. That has broken, and now we're just looking down at 297 as the next level nearby after this support has broken. So certainly that favors the Bitcoin bulls over the Ethereum bulls, but this is a scenario where they're both going down. Ethereum is just going down faster, so this chart is more bearish. Looking at it from a weekly perspective, still trying to form a weekly support level. That move that came off of the low was just one green candlestick. It's shorts covering, it's bulls getting in, but there's no follow through. And the biggest difference with Litecoin and LTC BTC is that the move did get follow through, at least on the daily time frame. A very clear base of support and a very clear second leg up. And if we look at Ethereum, again, just back to that same chart, ETH BTC, and what it did on the daily time frame, we never got that second clear leg up after a base of support on the daily had been built. That's a pretty distinct difference between those two charts. So Litecoin on the daily is holding on much better than those two names. And right now, if Litecoin were in the same boat as ETH, we would have broken 97 already. And clearly, with us still trading 15% above that support level, give or take, that clearly shows a very distinct difference. So we're going to be looking for Litecoin to form a daily higher low. Even if Bitcoin and everybody else drops to daily lower lows, the positioning is there for Litecoin to look to hold 97, at least on this initial pullback. So the weekly time frame is still consolidating. It is still a potential bull flag, but the bulls are holding on much better. And the RSI levels, you can see the hourly RSI did just get down close to oversold, but look at the 4-hour RSI, nowhere near as beat up as it is on Bitcoin. So any kind of bounce on Bitcoin, any kind of shift on Bitcoin that favors the bulls should continue to favor the Litecoin bulls even a bit more. ADAUSDT. So we have already come down and broken 78 as support. There's not a whole lot of follow through for the bears at this point after breaking that level, but it's a clear different setup overall because we have this double top that didn't really break. And that double top is pretty much at 10 cents. And we are now heading down to the most important support. So how I would view this, and again, this is a scenario where the discretion of the technical analyst comes into play, where if you're using a textbook, that's a higher high. But I'm calling that a double top. I'm saying high, low of the pullback, double top, pretty much a triple top, and now we're coming down to form a weekly higher low compared to 5.9. That's the most important support level. If it holds, we'll have essentially an equilibrium on this weekly time frame to be watching. And again, on the daily chart, that key support a ways away. I do anticipate the bulls to hold it, at least initially. 738 is a short-term support level to be watching before we get down there, but that's the most important setup, or I should say the most important support level for the longer-term weekly setup. Matic USDT here on Binance. Chart didn't want to come up. We'll try it again. Matic USDT on Binance. So we have a clear little shift in momentum. We had little mini lower highs and lower lows, and if you were looking at that on the 4-hour time frame, it'd be a clear downtrend that did shift back to the bulls. So we have a 4-hour higher low pattern that did just break. So we have to be cautious of the potential that our daily temporary top has been set after a solid 5-day bounce, and for the bulls to confirm a daily trend change after being in little lower highs and lower lows, we need to hold 178 as support, hold that level, and then turn around and break 276. Still need a bit more follow through before we look for that daily higher low to form, so a bit more follow through for the bears, but a higher low and a higher high would be a notable daily trend change, which would tell us our weekly higher low has been set after that big bull move. So that's the most important thing for the bulls to be watching here. The 4-hour trend being lost is the indication, the first indication that our top of that daily move has been set. If we start setting 4-hour lower highs and lows, then again, zoom out to the daily and look for the daily to try and hold that support level. And I guess best case scenario for the bulls here would be to hold the 12-period exponential support. That would keep them pretty strong. But the size of this bounce over the last 4 or 5 days definitely gives the bulls a good amount of space to work with. We could pull back from where we stand 28% and still be right at that support level. So as long as the pullback is less than 28%, we're going to look for a daily higher low to form. BNB USDT, so the daily lower high has been set here as well, but we haven't dropped to lower lows yet, so holding on a bit better than names like Ethereum, but in line with Bitcoin. Again, the correlation with Binance and Bitcoin has picked up significantly over the last couple of weeks, and it was not there back on this bull move up. So our new daily lower high is 32.29, and the bulls have to hold 28.71 and break 32.29 to change this daily trend and give us confidence our weekly higher low has been established. If we drop down to lower lows with Bitcoin, then the weekly 12-period exponential support is going to be the next target that we look to. EOS USDT, right on top of support, has not broken it yet, 592, but on the verge of it. Our new daily lower high is 678. If the bulls can hold 592, which is a less likely scenario because of how close we are to breaking support, but if the bulls could hold that level and break 678, that would change the daily trend. If we break that support of 592, 572 is the next level, and then again, we're looking at the 12-period weekly support, which held the low of the last consolidation, and we're just looking for a weekly higher low to form. But if you look at EOS and you look at the weekly time frame, this is not a bull flag. The amount of the pullback that we've seen and the speed of the pullback is definitely saying it's not a bull flag scenario. And you compare that to Binance or you compare that to Litecoin on the weekly, and it's a very different perspective. So we can just, again, it's always comparing individual names to each other, who's stronger, who's weaker, who's correlated to who, and we can see that EOS on the weekly time frame has pulled back harder than a lot of other names that are holding on stronger. IOTA on Binance USDT. So we dropped to a lower low. Our new daily lower high is 456. With that lower low breaking, the next support level is 3717 to be watching. Weekly time frame has not established a higher low yet. Anything above 235 will be a weekly higher low. Again, not a bull flag setup at this point. Pullback a bit too significant. And we are clearly in a daily downtrend now. Burden of proof on the daily charts. It gets a little bit hard for traders to understand, and rightfully so, when you're in a longer term uptrend and a shorter term downtrend. Who are you paying more attention to? The weekly chart is in an uptrend and we're looking for a higher low. The daily chart is in a downtrend of lower highs and lower lows. So in that perspective, we know the weekly chart is likely to form a higher low of support, and we just have to patiently wait for the daily chart to change that trend back to be confident the weekly higher low has been established. So looking at ENJBTC. So now these are the Bitcoin pairings. So a bit different setups. As you can see, I just ran through that technical analysis real quick once I had the framework of the cryptocurrency setup based on what Bitcoin was doing, and I can compare each individual name to Bitcoin. Very fast analysis. But now that I'm on the BTC pairings, I know that they're not going to have the same correlations. It's going to be different framework for each individual trade. So I have to put in a little bit more time and effort to get a complete picture of what is going on. So first thing I do is I look at the weekly. I see a very clear weekly downtrend of lower highs and lower lows. I can see we had a weak bounce attempt here. I'm still considering anything under 397, just a weekly lower high, keeping the downtrend intact. So even if we saw a solid weekly bounce, it's not doing anything to change the weekly trend at this point. We're more so just trading sideways, trying to change the daily trend. This key resistance of 2044, have been unable to break it. Double top, and then just a lower high right under it. We do have a couple little support levels to be watching. 1689 is one of them. We have a daily higher low trying to form, and actually I would call that a weekly, too squished, don't like it. But we have that support level holding, and we do have a couple little higher lows here. So the most recent higher low is 1795. So I can say if 1795 breaks, the odds that the bulls are going to be able to do anything in terms of changing this daily trend will be erased. And as far as the clear resistance goes, 2044 and 2047 would be a clear shift in the short term, which may give us the first bull cross of the 12 and 26 period in a long, pretty much since the breakout happened, if we can get a clear break over that resistance. Bears still have the upper hand. The burden of proof on this daily time frame and the weekly time frame is on the bulls, so I can be less confident. I am less confident in the daily trend change here because the weekly chart is not in an uptrend, as if I was comparing it to IOTA, where we have a weekly uptrend as our framework. So weekly downtrend, daily downtrend, have to break 2047 before the bulls start to prove anything as far as shifting that momentum. ENGBTC. So again, I need to know the weekly chart. Weekly chart's a potential bear flag at this point. We're not going to change this weekly trend anytime soon because anything under 19.4 is just a weekly lower high being set. So the daily time frame, big bull move, big bull volume, pullback is giving us low bear volume, but it's a significant pullback at this point. So that tells me the most likely scenario is a daily equilibrium. It's time to start scouting for a daily higher low to form compared to where we came from at 5303. I want to know what the shorter term indicators are doing. Are we oversold? 4-hour RSI is not oversold. Hourly RSI is oversold. So looking at hourly oversold conditions is the first signal to begin potentially scouting for the daily higher low to form. We would certainly have to be cautious of the hourly chart just cooling off RSI and dropping with a lower high and lower low. But if I am looking for a daily higher low to form, hourly oversold conditions are when I start to pay real close attention. We also have the daily exponential support potentially as a back test coming up as well. And again, first time we could get a bull cross of these daily exponential moving averages since the major bull run if we do form a higher low and get this equilibrium playing out. So change the 4-hour trend, and we'll be looking for confidence that our daily higher low is set. That's a long way away from happening on the 4-hour time frame at this point. If we do see a temporary bottom found, we are certainly going to look for a lower high compared to 791, and we'll look for the range to tighten up with a daily lower high. But there's no indication of our bottom being set just yet. Step number 1, change the hourly trend, get over the hourly exponential resistances. Step number 2, change the 4-hour trend. So again, let's just say I am a trader looking for a daily high or low. What I'm going to be doing is completely dependent on my risk appetite on this trade. If I want to be aggressive and I really want to position here and I'm really confident we're going to see a higher low, I'm starting to scale in on hourly oversold conditions, leaving myself multiple orders in case we do drop to lower lows. If I'm being more cautious and I'm not sure that we're going to set a daily high or low just yet, I can wait for an hourly trend change, which would be in the middle of the road of risk to reward, or I'm waiting for a 4-hour trend change if I want to eliminate a lot of risk, but also give up a solid amount of reward, because by the time the 4-hour trend changes, we're off the low a decent percentage. So again, it all depends on you as an individual with how you take a trade, and it also can depend on your life situation. Do you have a lot of time that you can devote to this trade right now? Or are you placing an order on your phone and really distracted with going out to the zoo with your family? It's a completely different scenario for every individual person with how they're going to trade a certain setup based on a lot of different factors. Have you had a really good week in cryptocurrency and you have a lot of profit cushion to work with? Maybe you're going to be a little bit more aggressive because things have been working well and things are clicking. All of these factors, and that's why it's so hard to answer a question when someone asks me about an entry or exit. All of that information is unknown to me, and it's all a factor. XRP BTC. So, daily time frame made a significant move and gave it all back. So the weekly chart looks like a bear flag. Bulls have a burden of proof on them to see any kind of clear shift in momentum after this massive dump over the last few months, and they're not doing it at this point. I would need to see a clear break to a higher high. Again, this is a quick impulse move showing shorts covering, bulls jumping in, but we haven't gotten any follow through. And just like the ETH BTC move that completely faded after that 3-day bull move, we have to be skeptical when it's just one move with no continuation, which again is why the Litecoin LTC BTC move with its clear support and clear secondary move looking as powerful as its first move is so meaningful to the bulls. We don't have that on ETH and we don't have that on XRP. So we have our low, high of the breakout. We came down and formed support. This is where it's up to the bulls to see continuation. They were unable to do so, and here we are falling back into the channel. So I can see this setup is a bit choppy on the daily. So if I combine this to the 2-day chart, smooth things out a little bit, I'm just looking for a more clear equilibrium setup with our low, high of the bounce, higher low. We'll call this a lower high at 5.5, and now I'm looking for a higher low compared to 4.59. A 4.59 break would be a very notable bear break, and it would just show us fading back down after a short-term short covering with no significant trend changes. So we have to be skeptical of the bulls until they are able to see continuation. Again, look at the exponential moving averages, major bull move, and then the start of the slow fade. That bear cross happened when we were up in the 9s, and here we are down at half that price, and we are still in a bear scenario with those exponential moving averages. And it's going to require getting over 5779 to see those make a bull cross. So that's where we stand overall. Hope you had a good weekend. Have a good rest of your Sunday. Do some good things out there this fine Sunday. We will end it with some comedy. Nailed it as far as the prediction for 2019 goes. Apparently all you got to do is give yourself a 1-year window, and it's much easier to make prediction calls. So I appreciate you watching. We'll see you soon. Have a good rest of your day. Bitcoin's breaking out.